Hello everybody, my name is Tom Vasel. Welcome to the live Q&A for April 4th, 2016. Now I don't normally do them at night. Apparently I'm going up against the final game of March Madness, which I guess is not that big of a deal. I haven't watched any of them. So welcome. My streaming equipment worked a little better this time. Hopefully the white balance is better. But anyhow, I'm going to answer your questions for the next hour or so. Don't ask them on YouTube, at least not now. Maybe later we'll take some questions from YouTube. But for now, in the link of the description of the YouTube video, there's a link to where you can ask questions and upvote other people's questions so that I can answer them there. The Q&A, K-I-U-N-E-I. The link is in the description. All right, what a day it has been. Just a lot of stuff going on, but the good news is we got 10 reviews finished and ready to go, and now I got 10 more reviews to work on because I'm going to a convention next week, so we need to get a little bit ahead there. Had a really good weekend, got to play Time Stories, the Prophecy of Dragons, played it twice actually. Played it through with Sam and Z, and then started playing through it with my kids. We're about halfway through. Well, I'm more facilitating it than actually playing it. All right, so let's get to Q&A, and I will start answering the questions there. This season of The Amazing Race, says Steve, is all teams of YouTube stars. If they contact you, would you like to run in The Amazing Race? And if so, who would be your partner? Well, I doubt that I'm even remotely on the star list. I think the Dice Tower is like maybe the 9,000th biggest channel on YouTube or something like that. It's really, really way down there. I've always thought that if there was one reality show that I would like to do The Amazing Race. I think I could do really well at it. Who knows, maybe not. But for partner, I'm thinking I would take Eric Summer. My wife, I love to do something like that with her, but I would fear that they would show us arguing on TV, and they always make you look bad. I think I could really get along with Eric, and I think he'd roll with the punches to some degree, and also he's a fan of it. So I think that would be fun for us to do. All right. Does it bother you when people sell Dice Tower promos on eBay in order to make a profit? It doesn't bother me unless they are trying to buy them up and then resell them. That I don't like. That's scalping. But like, let's say you kickstarted Dice Tower and you get extra stuff and you sell it for profit. I don't really mind. Again, though, I do mind when people sell stuff that you can get from the Dice Tower right now and they sell that for profit because someone doesn't know that you can get it from the Dice Tower. But it's not a huge deal. I'm not a big fan of it, but it is what it is. What's your favorite part of your work as far as Dice Tower work goes? It's putting together top 10 lists. It really is. I really like putting together top 10 lists. There's just something about that that's really fun. All right, let's see here. If you could pair up any Amerithrash designer with any Euro designer to design a hybrid, who would it be? Why would you pick them? And what would the game be like? I'm not going to answer this one, unfortunately, for you, because I'm not sure that even makes sense anymore. I'm not sure there's an Amerithrash genre, and I mean, obviously the Euro genre is very definitive, but I don't even know what a hybrid is anymore. Is Kemet a hybrid? Is Blood Rage a hybrid? And if so, then I would say that the designers who are making those sorts of games don't need the Euro guys to help them out at all. I think they look at the game and go, that's a good idea. And then they work on it. But I don't know. I don't have a dream team in mind. Sorry. Please continue the White Shelf tour. Again, I apologize, but until we get some fixing with there's just too many cables that you can't see that are all over the place. So right now, I'm not going to be able to do that. Let's see. I don't understand this question about an argument with Z and Sam about feeling the game. I don't understand that question at all. My apologies. Maybe you can clarify that. I don't know what that means. What are your thoughts on publishers including artwork that depicts real-life people, whether they be gaming celebrities, friends of the company, or the media? It's a double-edged question, isn't it? Because I'm in a good chunk of games, and a lot of people I know are also in games. You know, the first time it happened, I was super giddy. I was like, oh, wow, I'm in a game. I can't remember the first game that it was, actually. It's been a while, and there's been a lot of different games that I've shown up in it. It's like, wow, it's really cool. The one where it really came home to me was Nothing Personal, the game I designed. I'm like, oh, look, I'm a gangster, and Eric's gangster. Isn't that cool? And I really liked how they took us and put it in, but if you didn't know who we were, it still would work as gangsters in that game. But I've kind of soured on that in recent years, and I'm really trying hard not to get myself put into every game. I think as a promo, it's fine, but sometimes it's so obviously that person that it takes you out. The ones I dislike the most are when it's anachronistic. And I think the biggest culprits in this regard, I'm not saying it's their fault, but companies doing it for them, is Will Wheaton and Felicia Day. Because it'll be like, Sir Reginald and blah, 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 and Will Wheaton. And it pulls me out of the game. Someone described this on one of the forums, and I agreed with them. They said it's the Greg Grunberg effect, where you saw him in Star Wars. And if you saw the Star Wars episode 7, I was watching it too, and I saw him in that. I was like, oh, I know that guy. He's in all that stuff that J.J. Abrams does. And he is. But because I saw him, I didn't think he was Star Wars. I thought he was just a guy who was there on the set. And that's how it can possibly be with games. I'm not saying it's wrong or bad, but I don't know that I'm super fond of it. I would rather have original people. Now, if the backers get themselves in the artwork, that's fine. But I think it should be not obvious to people who don't know. But there are times where I'll open up a game and me and Z are like, yep, these are backers. Because you can tell the artwork for the game, and then a guy who's obviously wearing glasses from 1995. So, but I don't really have a problem with it per se. It just takes me out of the game. Okay, let's see here. Let's find some questions. Now, just realize I'm not going to answer every question because some of these I answer a lot. How would you describe the main difference in game opinions between you and Rado? Well, I mean, obviously it's his strict definition of the games that he plays. He plays games that only can be played 2-player. He plays games that have no conflict whatsoever, or direct conflict. He's okay with indirect conflict, I think, but not direct conflict. So I like conflict for the most part, and I don't need to play only 2-player games. So that would be the major things that we disagree on. Obviously, we disagree on a lot of different games, but I don't know that there's any like philosophy like, well, this is things I like and things that he likes. I can't really think of anything. I know that sometimes both of us on a specific game, there'll be an issue and we'll get really hung up on that issue. We've both done it in the past, and the other one of us is like, it's not really that big of a deal, that little thing or whatever it is, a part of the game. But I wouldn't say that there's a main difference there other than the no conflict and 2-player thing. Another thing is, like he mentions with Time Stories, that he does not like playing multiple characters, and that's something I have no problem doing. So that may be another big difference. But similarities, we don't like quiet games, I think. Like, I don't like to just sit there and everyone's quiet. Rado keeps a perpetual chatter going. Now, more chatter probably than I do during a game, but I still like that. I like that there's people talking. I'm there to kind of hang out and just have a good time. The game is almost secondary, or at least it's the same as hanging out with everybody. Wow, there's not very many questions being asked. Go and upvote them if you want. I'm going to answer all the questions today, I think. Any interest in attending WrestleMania 33 in 2017? It would be held in the Citrus Bowl in Orlando. I don't know that I would ever really be interested in watching WrestleMania. I've always thought WrestleMania is like the biggest event of the WWE world, and it just doesn't seem that exciting to me. There's really only one event that I like, and that's the Royal Rumble, and that was in Orlando this year, and I still didn't go see it because they're really expensive tickets. And I don't like wrestling that much. I just find it amusing and go on. All right, let's see here. With all the games you play, was there or is there a time where when you have to play a multiplayer game by yourself, just pretending to be different players. I have done that possibly in the past to practice a game maybe, or to kind of understand a game before I taught it to other people. I've definitely never reviewed a game where I played the multiple players, and I would not do it for fun. So I'm going to say no. I've only done it a couple times just to see how something worked. Let's see. When visiting the UK, where do you plan on staying? For the first couple days, we're going to stay in London. Some fans of the show have offered to let us stay there, so we're going to just hang out in London. I believe we're arriving Tuesday, so Tuesday and Wednesday, and maybe even part of Thursday, we'll have a chance to go around and see parts of London, which I'm very excited about, mostly because I know nothing about London, so that will be fun. And then Friday or Thursday, then we'll head to the UK Gaming Expo itself. It's exciting. It's not too far away, is it? Let's see here. I'm going to, let's see. Woof. This is the fewest questions. It must be this 10 o'clock. I'm probably not going to do these late ones at night. Obviously, not nearly as popular. You mentioned a roll and move top 10 once. Will it really happen? It might happen at some point, but you might be surprised at the games that are on there. Will you ever do top 10 lists of specific themes, like top 10 pirate games or top 10 alien games? Yes, we will. 20 people, 3 hours. How split what games to play? If you have 20 people, just play whatever games you want to play. Split any way you want. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I think people can do it any way you want. What is your most despised work of fiction? Ooh, that's a good question. I really dislike The Scarlet Letter a lot. I just like a lot of stuff from that period. Stuff I was forced to read in high school, and I love a good rollicking story, and I do not... The reason I dislike The Scarlet Letter so much is because it could have been written, like, I think, in 5 pages, and yet they managed to stretch it out to a whole book. There's other books that I've disliked, too. Well, let me see if I can think of one. That's the one that comes to mind. There's other books. So I read a lot of books I like, and I read a lot of books I don't like. But usually when I read a book I don't like, if I like chapter 4 or 5, I don't like it, I'm done. I just read a book recently, a science fiction book, and I can't remember the author's name, but she wrote, I think it was a female author, she wrote the book in the present tense. I guess that's a cool stylistic thing. I just couldn't do it. He walks over to her. He says to her this. She caresses his cheek. It just, this whole present tense thing really, really threw me off. I had to stop reading that one. Maybe it was a good book. I just couldn't handle the constant present tense. All right. Do you think International Tabletop Day is becoming too commercialized? I don't believe it was ever not commercialized. The amount of money that stores had to pay to be part of it, the amount of money that companies had to pay to put their promos into it, the amount of advertisement for Tabletop Day that really doesn't advertise the stores themselves, but rather points people back to Geek and Sundry. The whole thing has always felt very commercial. Now we will see. There's the person who ran Tabletop Day last year is not running it this year. I believe Will Wheaton is taking a more direct hand in running it. So maybe things will have changed. I have talked to lots of store owners and publishers about Tabletop Day. Most of them will continue to, well, the publishers know. I mean, if you look at the promos that Tabletop Day has this year, they're just bleh. Okay, there's like 1 or 2 that are interesting. The rest are just bleh. And that's because a lot of publishers are no longer, they didn't find it very useful for them. Many stores are not quite as interested anymore because the packs of promo cards they got they were very sought after promo cards that just caused problems at the store because they get like 5. Like last year, was it the Felicia Day, Dead of Winter? Everyone wants that. Everything else, everyone's like, yeah, whatever. And the tabletop day itself, does it drive sales and people into the store? I don't know. I'm not against Tabletop Day. Obviously, I run an event on Tabletop Day itself. But you ask, is it becoming too commercialized? I would assume this year it will be slightly less commercialized. I already thought it was pretty heavily commercialized. Do you play any board game apps? I do. Which one is my favorite? Probably Ascension. I like Ascension. How do you feel about the Asmodee announcement, and have you talked to Cool Stuff about how it will affect them? Well, definitely I've talked to Cool Stuff. With the Asmodee announcement, I've already talked a little bit about it when it first came out. We did an interview on it, and I believe that at this point, anything we do is just noise shouting into the wind. And I would prefer to let probably 6 months or so go by to see how everything kind of falls into place here. I know that feelings are very high on this at this point in time. I have a lot of opinions on the whole thing, but my opinions may not be correct. I also know a lot of stuff behind the scenes and different ways that it's affecting different people in different regards. And it's hard for me to make an opinion without saying some of that stuff, but I might be able to say some of that stuff later on. I know that I keep saying wait and see, wait and see, wait and see, but that is still what I'm going to say. I will say that I do not think this policy will change, despite what people try to do for at least a year. If the policy does not work, I would assume that Asmodee will change it back or something. We'll have to wait and see on that. But I suspect that it will be okay. I know there's a lot of people who are angry about it and boycotting it, but I don't think enough will do so to make Asmodee really change their policies. Again, I like to wait and see on that. And again, I know that's not a popular opinion. You want me to lead a crusade against Asmodee. That is not my intention or goal at all. So be it. And I'm not, to be clear, we have been accused by some that we are not saying anything because we don't want to bite the hand that feeds us. No, none of that. We're not afraid to say things that are true, but I have never, if you look at the history of Dice Tower, we do not attack companies. We will say this game is garbage, but we do not go after companies. There are companies out there that downright steal from people, and we may have to sadly say that, but we are still not going to go at them. We are not the leader of a crusade against these things. No good comes from that, and I will not do it. All right, let's see here. What are your thoughts on the new Descent app? I'm very excited about it, even though I do like playing the Dungeon Master for Descent very much. That's something I really like doing. I don't feel like the app will hurt me too much. I'm kind of excited maybe to be a player. Maybe I can play it myself. Have you ever had poutine? I think that's how you pronounce it. If not, would you be interested in seeking out someone to come to Canada? I'm always interested in trying something new in that regard. Let's see here. One of my best friends always brings his girlfriend to game night, and she always wants to play games with us, but she's too competitive and wants to play games the rest of the group doesn't want to. How do we handle it? Well, I'm not really sure how the group dynamic works there. I mean, if she wants to play a game and no one else wants to play that game, it would seem like majority would rule there. So I don't know. That seems like that problem would just resolve itself. Maybe you have to be more specific. I'm not really sure what that means. How much is the game with your ranking 3 or 2 better than games with your ranking 1? Do you rate some games 0? No, for me to give a game a 1, I would have to say that there's absolutely no redeeming value in that game whatsoever. I wonder how many games I have rated 1. Hang on one second. That actually sounds like an interesting thing to look up here. What games have I rated ones? I know that I have, and this may, these sorts of things always change anyway. All right, let's see here. You have a ratings graph. There it is, 1. 22 games I've rated a 1. Bocek. Yeah, that was just a garbage. It wasn't. I couldn't even finish the game. Bibleopoly. That one just irritates me so much because it took a game that wasn't that great to begin with, Monopoly, and then slapped the Christian label on it. The Busy Town board game. I don't remember I don't remember that one. Chinese checkers. The hatred just one arises in me is so great. Crocodile pool party. Same thing. Dysfunction. Factor crap. Go Hoops basketball dice game that didn't do anything. If Only I Had. Yep, not a good game. Kill Shot. Monopoly, United States Air Force. Oh, that made... Old Maid. One-Upmanship. Phase 10. Proxima. Obertura. That's a really bad game that I played in 2007, which I've apparently purged from my memory. Rate Your Mate, Redneckopoly, Rough the Card Game, Shadow Era, Snakes and Ladders, Word Blind, Word Mastermind. Yeah, those games are all pretty bad. There's not a huge difference between level 2 and level 1, I guess, but 1 is just really, really awful, and I'm very hesitant to give a game a number 1. So there's that. Let's see here. Who's your favorite companion in Doctor Who? Rory. I really liked the dynamic between Rory and Doctor Who. A close second would probably be... Wow, he had a lot of good companions. I just liked Rory as the Doctor's companion. After that, probably Donna, I guess. There wasn't any that I really disliked. And again, I'm only in the new Doctor Who. I haven't gone back and watched the old stuff. And every time I say that, people email me and say, you need to watch it, but there's a ton of TV I have not watched. And I watched a couple of the old Doctor Who's, and I have a hard time getting past the special effects. Why won't you let Jason just film his collection at home and put together his own video? I'm sick of waiting for you to make the drive. I'm very sorry. But you could drive to his house and video it yourself, possibly. I apologize. There's a lot of things involved there, which would be for me to drive to his house and for us to move out a bunch of stuff that's in the way so that I can get in and do a proper film and take up lighting, because I went there to film it and the lighting was really bad, and so I'd have to put some lights in there and stuff. So it's a little bit more work than it sounds. So my apologies that I'm upsetting you. I probably should never have brought it up. But we'll show Jason's collection before 2020. But I would not look to see it anytime soon. I'm sorry. There's just a lot of other things that are much more important to get done. I posted a link in the Dice Tower Guild on BGG to a blog where a woman claims she's been sexually harassed multiple times over the years. Have you read it and your thoughts? I definitely did read it. I read a lot. I don't always comment on everything that I've read. I read that actually before it went to Board Game Geek. I forget how I found it, but I went and read the thing, and it's not a pleasant thing to read. This is certainly a bit of a you get in trouble if you do, you get in trouble if you don't type situation, because in this situation, for some people, they want a call to action. Now, what this woman said happened to her is pretty horrific, right? And I've certainly never seen some of the things that she said happen in real life, but I've certainly seen a chauvinistic, sexist environment in gaming, which is not something that I'm happy to see. I've seen less of it as the years have gone by, I think. Part of it is because I game in different circles. I believe the board gaming is much better about it, if only because in board gaming there's a much higher percentage of women, and for men to be chauvinistic and sexist with a lot more women around, it doesn't happen as much. And if it's internal, that's unfortunate too. But so I think that these things that are happening are wrong. So I know that people say, well, what do we do about it? What's the call to action? And that's what I would always say. People say, this is wrong. Well, great. These things are wrong. So what is the call to action? I will tell you what my call to action is. My call to action is, first of all, to raise my daughters. Never from me to them will they see any kind of thing where I think that a female is lesser than a male, where I think that a female is anything other than a wonderful human being to play games against. And when I raise my daughters, I can raise them in my environment, and where that's for me and anybody who is around me, the same thing. And otherwise, then I will speak out against it and remove that. And my girls can see that, and that is a call to action. And I can keep them from going into situations like that. So that is my action plan there. I have 6 daughters. I don't know that there are more important women on earth to me than them. And so I will do my best to protect and to give them the opportunities in gaming. I do not hope that the Dice Tower is any sort of party to this sort of thing. I don't think it ever has been, whether on purpose or inadvertently. And so we can speak out against these things, and I think that we should speak out against them, especially in general areas. Speaking out specifically against companies or people would require me to actually have seen something, or there's undisputable proof in that regard. Otherwise, I fall into a weird he said, she said situation. And just like if someone accuses a company of something and that company has done something or whatever situation, I've learned a long time ago not to take sides in these situations until I know the whole story. But I can stand up for an environment that is good and right. And when I'm in my game group, I will sometimes have to say stuff to people, not from board gaming usually, but more from the folks who are unfortunately the collectible card games folks. Usually I see more of that coming from them. And I also get to control where the group games and things, usually to some degree. So it's certainly a sobering thing. And my question is, when people get upset over these things, and there's nothing wrong getting upset, but then what is our call to action? And my call is to make the world a better place in that regard for my daughters, and I can be very specific in doing that for them, so that when they go out and they run into this chauvinism and sexism, because they likely will, how to deal with it, and hopefully to train my son to never ever be like that. All right, let's move on to some more questions. Jared Whitley finished his top 100 and named Dungeons & Dragons as his #1 game. My gut reaction was that this is not a board game. Is my reaction valid or not? Do you accept his choice as valid? I'll accept his choice as valid for him if that's his #1 game of all time. He didn't call his list top 100 board games, right? And Dungeons & Dragons is, really, when we say board games, we're saying tabletop games anyway, right? Because we're already saying, well, here's board games, here's card games, here's miniature games, here's collectible card games, here's role-playing games. Now, to be fair, I think role-playing games are different than miniatures. Miniature games and board games are so very close. People are like, that's a miniature game. Well, yeah, but how do you tell the difference? Where's that line? Even role-playing games and board games have been moving into that, how close they are together. So, yeah, that's fine. That's his #1. I wouldn't put any role-playing games on my list, and even if I did, I don't think Dungeons & Dragons would hit #1. But I'll tell you, as much fun as I had playing Time Stories with my girls, I thought, wow, I wonder what it'd be like to play a full-blown role-playing game with them. I had no idea that Rado was with you until those videos went up with him in it. I know Rodney Smith is coming down. When is he coming? May. Will he be in any videos? Yes. And will you let people know before? Yes. Follow Twitter. We do mention these things on Twitter. Board Game Breakfast. Those are my two main sources where I give out news about the Dice Tower. And we definitely announced when Rado was coming on both of those. For sure I mentioned it on Board Game Breakfast. If you're not following Board Game Breakfast, I definitely tell you what's coming from the Dice Tower every Monday. But Rodney is coming down in May, and Stephen Bonaker is coming down. So we'll have a gaming time with them that we will record. In fact, I just talked to Rodney today about that. What's your favorite book? Non-comic, please? Guys, if I included comics in my favorite books, I don't know that comics would even break the top 20. I like comic books, but there's nothing compared to the depth of a book. However, I'm going to save my answer to this question because at some point we will be doing a top 10 books. That's actually really soon, probably. I'm semi-new to the Dice Tower. Heard you talking a lot about living in Korea. How long did you live there? Almost 10 years. Why did you move there? I went there to teach English. I was also a pastor there for a while and also taught high school math at an international school for a while there. All my children, except for Melody and Jimmy, the two bookends, were born there. And so for many of them, the formative years of their life were from Korea. A wonderful country. I love it. Let's see. Will you do a top 10 games with really bad, ugly box covers? I might do that at some point, but that'd be a real short top 10. It wouldn't be one of the big ones because really, what are we going to sit there? This cover's bad. Oh, it's so bad. Oh, you're right. That's bad. That would be really boring. But a quick top 10, I think we might do that at some point because there's some pretty ugly covers out there. I'm pretty sure I know 5 of them right off the top of my head. Played my first game of Rebellion tonight, even though it is not the type of game that typically wins awards. I think for me, well, I don't know why you would think it's not the type of game that typically wins awards, but whatever. I think for me, it's the best game of the year thus far. So my question is, would you vote for it in a game of the year or thematic category? Possibly. The problem is that it's April. I have not yet played 95% of the games that are going to be released in 2016, so there's no possible way. Will it be in my top 10 of the year? Barring an amazing year, yes. Would I see it in running for Game of the Year? Yeah. Thematic Game of the Year? Definitely. But is it the top of those? Probably. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, War of the Ring was considered Game of the Year by many, many people. All right. Did you and your wife have a hard time coming up with names for any of your kids? No. We started out and we didn't have any sort of any rules in play when we named our kids other than my wife wouldn't let me do anything funny with their initials. And we didn't want to do anything weird with their initials either. Like Holly, I love Holly. Ivy would have been a great name, but HIV is a bad initials. So we didn't name her that. Holly Joy is actually her name. But what we did, and this was a very simple system, is I went through, I love researching, so I went through every girl's name. Well, it was always almost girls. We had a boy's name sitting around forever. But I went through every girl's name, right? I went through the list. I was like, I like this one, I like this one, I like this one, I like this one. I wrote down like 30 names. I'm like, I really like these names. Then I gave it to Laura and she picked one. It was pretty simple. I mean, we could have did it the reverse way and it would have come out to be the same thing, probably. Maybe slightly different, but that system worked really well for us. It wasn't really that hard, and once we picked it, we stuck with it. The only time it changed was Jack was going to be called William for the longest time because I wanted Will Vasel. Just sounded good, but I don't know. For some reason, we changed it to Jack. Jack Vasel also sounded cool. And then Jimmy, we felt like giving him the same initial with Jack, I guess, to some degree. I'm not really sure. I don't have any deep stories behind my names. I'm just like, ooh, I like that name. And that's it. But I do think, can people spell their name? Which, unfortunately, Melody gets the brunt of because most people think her name is Melanie, which is a very common name these days, but it's actually Melody. Okay, well, I think that's enough for the Q&A. So I'm going to be moving from there to the YouTube comments now. So if you have any questions in the YouTube section, you can ask them starting now, and I will answer some of them. I'm not going to answer all of them, but if you have any questions, I'll be glad to take them and answer them there. So looks like you guys are talking about Blood Rage and Talisman. I guess I got very, very boring there. What is your favorite Duel of Ages 2 game mode? I apologize. I don't know what the game modes are. I play normal timed game mode, I guess. If someone wants to start playing Hero Quest, I'm going to assume here you mean Heroescape. How much terrain should you have to get a decent sized map? Is one set enough, or should you have 2 or 3? If you want to play Heroescape with any sort of... I think I would buy... if Heroescape's expensive. If you're finding the original set, the original one, that one is fine. If you get the later ones, the Swarm, the Marrow set or the Superhero set, I don't believe there's enough terrain in one of those. For me to have fun with the game, I prefer to have 3 sets minimum. I believe I have 6 right now in total. But when I build my things, I usually use sets that are 3 or 4 sets. But that's just me. I do not think you need that much. I think 2 is enough of the original ones, probably. What can companies do for people who are colorblind? Just try to make it... There's a couple things that you can do. You can pick colors for pieces that are colorblind friendly, and there are sites on the internet that show different things like that. For example, I think purple, white, orange, and there's another color, I forget what the colors are, but there's like certain colors that are very easy for colorblind people to tell apart, or most colorblind, because there's variations of it. If you have cards, super simple. Put a symbol on them. That's a very easy solution. The cards, there's no question that it's easy. When it comes to pieces on the map, though, like wooden pieces, it's harder. But you just should pick colors that won't be easily confused. Like maybe not use red and green, because those are often easily confused. Are we going to see a review of Millennium Blades this week? We are. I just finished reviewing that today. That was a pretty intense component drop to clean up after. Level 99 is always getting me on that. All right, let's see here. Do you feel children's games get unfair ratings on BGG? I do, but since BGG is not for kids, I don't know of any way to fix that. You would need a separate site, really, for people. Even me, when I rate them, do I rate it the way my kids would rate it? Or do I rate it the way I think of the game? I rate it the way I think of the game. Let's see. Do I plan to sell for charity or donate these games? No, these are my games that I play for fun. What area of Korea did you live in? I live near Seoul in a city called Uijeongbu, which incidentally is where MASH was supposedly at in the TV show. When will you be reviewing Smash Up? It's Your Fault. I reviewed it today. You'll see that also coming this week. What is the official color for the Dice Tower flag, and why does it change? There is no official color. When I'm doing a logo, I'll be like, we'll make this one green. I'm sticking with green for now because it kind of pops a little bit. But you'll see a red one, a yellow one, I guess, sometimes. I forget all the different colors. I've thought about making them mean something, but I haven't come to a good idea of what that would mean yet. Let's see here. If you could have any fantasy mythological monster as a pet, what would it be? I don't know. Dobby seems like he'd be handy, but is he a pet? Free the elves. Pegasus, I guess. I don't know that I want any of them because people be trying to steal them from me all the time. What are your favorite foods to eat on your new diet? Well, my favorite thing to eat in my diet is chicken chop chop. Chicken chop chop is a Cuban style dish, which is essentially rice, and I use brown rice. Then beans, and I use not as many beans when I eat it. Then grilled chicken on top of that, and then lettuce, tomatoes, maybe some cheese, and that is so good, such a good thing. And they have all kinds of cool sauces they put on them, so delicious and really low in calories. I eat that often. It's similar to a salad, I guess, to some degree, but I just really like it. They're very popular down here, and that's probably my favorite thing in that regard. How do you add flavor to the healthier foods that are normally a bit bland tasting? I am a flavor king. Whenever I go shopping or anywhere, like whenever I go to Origins, at the North Market, there's a hot sauce stand and there's a spice stand, and I always visit both, and I always buy stuff for both of them. I have a whole cabinet full of all kinds of weird spices, and another cabinet even more full of hot sauces and all different sorts of. Whenever I go somewhere, I'm like, ooh, I gotta try this sauce out. I just love sauces. Have you seen any good, bad movies recently? I saw Batman vs. Superman. I would say that that's not horrible, but I would lean towards it being bad. What's with the sound quality recently? It seems to have diminished. Well, actually, the sound quality should be improving. Mostly it's because I'm using new microphones and things with my new camera, and since my audio guy Derek is not here yet, I don't have the ability really to tweak them and know what I'm doing. I'm trying my best in that regard, and I think that with this mic with the camera, I think it sounds pretty good, but there's some issues I've run into. Derek is arriving in Homestead this week, so hopefully probably won't see much change this week. He needs to settle in, or the following week, but hopefully in the next month you'll see changes. For 1.5 years ago, after you had been with Fantasy Flight Games, you said to Eric on your podcast you had a boring secret that you would not tell me, but that he would ask for a year and then you would tell it. Wow, I don't even remember what that was. I don't even remember saying that. Well, if someone can find the podcast that I said that, and maybe I can listen to it and remember, but it does sound like something I would say, but I don't remember what it is. Have you played the Undead Factions for Battlelore yet? It's very high on the list, and you should see those reviews coming up for them within a month, I hope. Have you ever considered doing your top 300 games? Guys, I cannot emphasize to you how much work goes into a top 100. When I ask the guys to do a top 100, or the different folks on my channel do a top 100, I know what I'm asking them to do. There's a lot of work that goes into those. A lot of work goes into a top 10 list. And so for a while I kept track of my top 250, but it was just too much to keep track of. So no, probably not. I'm sorry. Do you visit friendly local gaming stores when traveling? If I have a chance to, I will. I don't always have a chance, but if I have a chance, I will do so. Let's see. What is the Civil War theme about in the new Dice Masters? I can never really tell what these themings are for these sets. I mean, it looks like it's based on the original Civil War that happened 10 years ago, but then they got some characters in there like Rocket Raccoon's in it. He has nothing to do with Civil War. And then Captain Marvel's a big part of it, and as far as I can tell, she's the leader of the new Civil War that's coming and happening this year. I don't know, it's very confusing. Let's see here. Will you be doing playthrough videos of Time Stories Prophecy of Dragons? Yes. We did record those, and they will be edited, and you will probably see those posted next week while we're away. The review you will see this week of it, and then you'll see the playthroughs next week. Could you see yourself working with the Dice Tower until retirement? I don't believe I'm going to retire. I would be so bored, I think. Maybe I'll feel differently in 30 years. When is Only Time I'm going to be in stores? As far as I know, and don't hold me to this, but the last I checked, the 15th sounds like when you'll see it in stores of this month. I can hope so. That'd be cool. Will you be doing any public appearances while in Quebec or just a private Z-Man event? Unfortunately, just a Z-Man event. It is kind of a turn and burn. I'm going in. I will be taking my camera with me. I'll be videoing as much stuff as I can, as they will allow me to do. I'll get the scoop on as much stuff as I can. But unfortunately, that is the extent of what I'll be doing there. I'll be in Toronto next week. So that'll be cool. I'm going to the Blue Jays versus Yankees. Go Blue Jays! And also going to visit the Snakes and Lattes. So that'd be cool. Maybe if you're there next Wednesday, I'm not sure what the time is exactly, that you'll see me, possibly. Dice Tower Con is sold out. Is there any other way I can get in this year, or do I have to wait till next year? Unfortunately, it seems, I mean, you can get on the waiting list, but there's no guarantee. The waiting list is really long. I just was checking on it. It's a very long waiting list. Hopefully next year. I still think it will sell out next year, but next year when we go up to 3,000, that should hopefully cover everybody who wants to come. I'm really excited about that. I hate turning people away from conventions, but these things sell out, which is not fun, but I don't know any other way to do it. Any chance you and Melody would do more dad versus daughter live plays? You might see some of that over the summer, possibly. With all your background and all things food, ketchup or ketchup? With a C or with a K? It's with a K. This is interesting. Would you do a top 10 mechanisms? That's interesting. We might do that at some point. But we are actually letting people vote on what our top 10s are these days. You can go to Board Game Geek, to our guild, to our forums, and vote there. There's voting up right now. Like, we are going to be doing a top 10 list that you'll probably see next week, which is our top 10 games that scale well. That's what people want to see. Like, where we think with all the number of players, they play really well. Then I was actually making that list right before I recorded this, and wow, that's hard, because I'd say almost every game I'd be like, well, it's not as good with 2. This one's not very good with 5 or 6. There's very few games that I think scale well, but there are some that do so fantastically. I wonder how many people would agree with me on my number 1. I thought the number 1, when I was going through this and I got to my number 1 for that particular list, I was like, this is so obvious, so obvious. I still remember the first time I played that particular game, and I was like, oh wow, yeah, that's how they handle the different number of players. Wow, that's perfect. And I played this game many times with every number of players that there is. So that the player handles, and it plays equally well with all of them. You guys can guess if you want, and I'll tell you if someone got it right, but I won't tell you what the correct answer was. Will you ever teach again? Well, I do teach at my church, so that lets me get a bit of that out. Sometimes I get to preach a Sunday morning service, and I also teach the kids. And if they allow me to teach in any fashion, I will do so. I also have been teaching my daughter's math in our homeschooling classes. How many games did you have in Korea? I had more games than I have now. Korea was where my collection was the biggest, and I think 1,400 was the largest it was at one point. How did I get them there? Well, I either bought them there or they were shipped to me in Korea. But I got rid of most of them before I brought them back. Let's see here. Now, I realize I'm skipping a lot of questions, and I apologize about that, but I just can't get to all the questions. So I'm looking for ones that I think would be interesting or not. Do you play any video games with your children? Yeah, sometimes. If so, what's your favorite video game to play with them? Probably Mario Party. We get a kick out of that. Mario Kart. And Super Smash Brothers. Those are probably the three that we like to play each other in. Do you ever get frustrated trying to bring new people in the hobby? No, I don't. And I know that sounds bad, but I don't know when it happened. At some point in my life, I realized, why am I trying to drag people in a hobby they're not really that keen on? I'll teach people games, but I can't make people like games. And if I show them a game and they're not interested, I move on. And you will eventually find people who do like to play the hobby, and that's just what I look for. There's millions of people who play board games, probably. So I don't really worry so much about the millions who aren't interested in it. I'm always trying to promote gaming itself, and I think there's a lot of gamers who are like, wow, I never realized this stuff existed. But I think just promoting gaming will do that. I don't actively try to get each individual to game. One of the things that a lot of people talked about and asked me about is the whole legacy thing. Like, what do you think about this game being legacy? I really don't look at a game and go, wow, I love that game if it was legacy. Now I kind of just wait and see what would happen in that regard. I'm pretty far behind on questions, but that's okay. Let's see here. Do you have a favorite audiobook Eric has put out? I have never listened to an audiobook from Eric. I apologize, but that is nothing against Eric. I just don't listen to audiobooks very much. I love to read. I love to read. And so I'd rather, if I start listening to audiobook, I would go find a book on Amazon and get it and download it and on my Kindle and just read it because I love to read. And as fascinating as the audiobook is, I'm not as interested in that. My favorite thing to listen to is like podcasts where I hear two people talking back and forth. I'm not a big fan of podcasts of just one person, which is kind of ironic that I'm doing this. But although I'm talking back to you guys, so I will watch Q&As. I like watching those too. I'm just not a big fan of audiobooks, not just because I think I can read faster. That's all. And yes, I know you can listen to them on 2 times speed or whatever, but I don't know. I will listen to a book of his at some point. Let's see. Why did you do this week's board game breakfast at the Miami Zoo? Well, I'll tell you why. My daughter had a party at the zoo where she took some of her friends and walked around, and I didn't want to walk around with Dad, so I was like, I'll just take my camera up and record board game breakfast there. And I did. And I think it worked pretty well. I was really happy with it. In fact, we recorded a couple reviews there, and we recorded several questions of the week. You'll see several questions a week over the next time. And I got a zoo pass because I'm going to go back there and do more of it there. I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe I'm the first person on video to do the wall of games behind me. I thought that would be a cool thing to do, and it was, and now lots of people do it, and that's fine. But I always like to be different and see what I can do. And that whole at the zoo thing, I was like, oh, that's really cool. I can't get to the zoo all the time, but I can get there often enough that I might. That will not be the only board game breakfast you see from the zoo. It's good exercise to lug. The Miami Zoo is a really big zoo with tons of walking that's done there, and it's good exercise for me to lug the camera around. I actually do not know which of the snakes and lattes I'm going to. I apologize. Will there be a cruise next year? Well, I do not know that for a fact, but considering how well this one has sold, I would imagine there will be. As long as this one goes well, yes, there will be one next year. Here's all the guesses for the game that is good with multiple players. And let's look. And yes, someone did guess it. Anyhow, what is your favorite thing to do on your birthday? Same thing I do every other day, except I get to eat cake on my birthday, or better yet, pie. If you guys ever visit me, you should say, Tom, let's eat key lime pie, because they make the best key lime pies. There's this little store I found, and she made, the lady there, I went in there, and she had like 30 flavors of key lime pie, and they're the best key lime pies I've ever had. I got strawberry chocolate chip key lime pie, I got cherry white chocolate key lime pie, and I got key lime and guanabana key lime pie, which was my favorite of the group. But they were all so good. They weren't cheap though, but they were good. My favorite faction for Rum and Bones, the Undead. I like Undead factions. I don't know why. All right, let's see here. Are there any games that play equally good with your children and your game group? Oh, there's lots of games like that. As I look on the shelves, and there's some games that play, like I just played the other night, I played Dice Town with my kids. Oh man, it was fun. And it was a different experience than playing Dice Town with adults, but it was just a fun time to play with them. What's my favorite Stephen King book? I don't know if I have a favorite book of his. Actually, I do have a favorite book. It's a book of short stories, and I forget what it's called, but it's the one with the Langoliers in it. And the dog also that's coming out of the camera. I forget what that one's called. That's the Langoliers is probably my favorite Stephen King story. Although I haven't read some of his stuff, like I know Shawshank. No, I did read Shawshank Redemption, a short story. I did read that. Actually, the movie was better than the story. I haven't read The Green Mile, so I don't know if that's any good. There's a lot of his stuff I haven't read. And some of his stuff I read, and I don't like his repulsive, gross stuff. I like more, like The Langoliers was just spooky, and I liked that idea. It also did not have a horrible ending, which I liked too. Have you read Discworld? I've read some of it. Have you read Pratchett? I've read some of it. What do you read? Fantasy, horror, science fiction? I very rarely read horror. I mostly read science fiction, but I occasionally read fantasy. But science fiction is my favorite. Actually, I like a smash up of, like, I like reading about fantasy on another planet where they might have got like a mix of sci-fi and fantasy. Like Lord Valentine's Castle, or whatever it's called, by Robert Silverberg. I really like that because it seems like it's a fantasy story, but it's set on a world that has spaceships that come to it and stuff, and so I think that's really cool. I like that combo. Let's see here. Have you ever seen Rhett and Link's commercial for the Miami Zoo? I have not. I don't know. Huh, that's interesting. Have you been watching 11/22/63? I watched the first 2 episodes, but that was it. And not because I didn't like them, just because I just haven't. There's not a lot of time for me to watch movies and TV shows. That ripping paper quirk was so weird. Yeah. But you remember that. I remember that too. I was just talking to someone about that the other day, like how someone does something like that. I was like, oh, it's like they're ripping the paper from the Langoliers. What was it talking about that? Oh, I think it was something from Time Stories that came up. Do you ever think Lords of Waterdeep will ever come out with an expansion? It did. And it was a good expansion. I don't think it needs another one. I think it's perfectly fine. Just so you know, your numbers at the chat are probably lower than typical 10 p.m. due to the NCAA championships being on right now. I'm sure that's true. But I'm not, I don't worry about that sort of thing. These things are archived and so people can watch them later. Favorite Saturday morning cartoon? I don't watch a Saturday. Is that even a thing anymore? Let's see. Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson is the best thing I've read. I should probably get around to reading Mistborn. I heard it's good. I liked what Brandon Sanderson did with Robert Jordan's books. Captain America versus Batman. Who wins? Batman would win, but Captain America would retain his dignity. You know, it's really funny, though. Not funny, but just interesting. There's a lot of fuss about the Batman vs. Superman movie. And people are saying it's horrible, worst movie ever. And other people are like, no, it's really good. But I'll tell you, I watched it. And then in the last week, I then watched Captain America 2, Winter Soldier. It is night and day. Captain America Winter Soldier is like an amazing movie. The whole movie, and it replays well. There's probably plot holes in it, right? But they're not like these gaping obvious plot holes. And I didn't sit there the whole time and think, these characters are all really dumb. No, they all felt pretty smart. The bad guys felt smart. The good guys felt smart. Yeah, wow. I'm sorry, DC. And yes, it made a lot of money, Batman vs. Superman, and that is what it is. But I'll tell you what, Marvel movies are better. And that's not because I do like Marvel better, but I would love a good Batman vs. Superman movie. I'm a big fan of Frank Miller's Batman, which is odd because I'm not a fan of dark stuff normally. Let's see here. When are we getting the Kickstarter stuff? Once I know, I will announce that. Right now, I'm in the process of getting all the promos, all the dice towers, all the dice and everything. I would say I have 40% of the stuff, but there's stuff in the mail right now on the way to me. So once we get the stuff that I know is coming, then I will be able to give you a better idea of when the Kickstarter stuff comes. And I apologize, and I know people want it now, and I apologize about that, but I just have to wait till it comes in. And since that isn't my main task, isn't getting that stuff out is important when it comes in, but I just have to wait on it. So I'll be doing reviews. That's what we're supposed to be doing anyway. Do you have hope for Suicide Squad? I don't know. I'm not going to probably watch it in the theater. I'll just wait till it comes out in video. DC has kind of lost me. Whatever. Make your movies, and I'll watch them when they come out on video. But they're not worth spending the extra money to go to the movies. I'm not super rich. What's my favorite hat? My favorite hat is my new blue fedora. I really like the blue fedora. I've thought about getting a Dice Tower logo on it. That'd be cool, but I don't know if it's possible. Let's see. Oh, hey, we're at 11:03, so it's time to probably end this. So I'm going to shut this down. Let's see if I can find one last question to answer this. To answer here, best Batman actor. That's not a good one to end it on. I don't know. I always liked Val Kilmer's Batman. Not Bruce Wayne, but I thought his Batman was good. I thought Ben Affleck did a pretty good job. I was pretty happy with that. Michael Keaton was fine. I didn't really like George Clooney. What was the last game you played? Smash Up, maybe? Are there any plans to have any gaming events, live or otherwise, while at the UK Gaming Expo? I know I'm playing in a live Pandemic game. I know that Sam and I are going to do a show there, and there may be a couple other things that we're doing there. I forget, I don't have my schedule in front of me there, but we will be there, and if you can find us and want to play a game with us, I can't promise that it will happen, but chances are higher, deliberately leaving our schedules open for that regard. I'm certainly going to go around and spend time talking to publishers and things, because I do want to meet a lot of the British publishers face to face. But we're also there to hang out and play games. So, all right. Well, folks, I appreciate you watching. I'm just glad the streaming worked this week. I hopefully don't look as washed out as I have in last week, and hopefully the audio is a little bit better. We'll figure out things, like I said, as time goes by, and hopefully the audio and the video of our show is getting better. If I don't try to change it, it will never get better. And so I'm always trying, let's make this video better, let's make this, and then, oh, that didn't work. Okay, it didn't work. Well, let's find something that does work. And I'll tell you, when we all have these microphones and when we do the top 10, that won't happen for a couple more weeks yet. But when that happens, I think the top 10s will be that much better. I'm very excited about the future of the Dice Tower, to see how things change. I think that on some aspects, like if you watch our Gamma coverage, I'm so proud of that. I think the guys did a fantastic job on that, and that is where I like to see us get with all of our coverage. And if we can continue to do that, that just makes the channel better, which makes board gaming better, which means the Kickstarter meant something, which is what I like to see happen. Anyway, guys, I appreciate everything. I appreciate all the questions that you asked. No real announcements. There's just reviews going up this week. There is Board Game Blender going up Thursday. I really can't tell you what else. The Gamma things are going to end in a few days. Today is the 4th. I think the 7th is the last day that the Gamma interviews are scheduled for. So, stuff to look forward to. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.